Hi, my name is Katelan Philp, and I will be presenting our paper on the lived experiences of gaming workers and the protective factors against gambling-related harm. So just a bit of an overview of the research. So we do know that on average, gaming workers are 2.1% more likely to become a problem gambler compared to the general population. We also know that gaming workers that have gambling problems also have a higher risk of smoking, alcohol abuse, and depression. From the research, we know that risk factors for gaming workers include the gaming environment, accessibility and receptibility to gambling, marketing and programming, gambling exposure, exposure to customers, level of training, restrictions in place, resources available, employment length, industry experiences, and even the department that the worker works in. We also know that other factors may include colleague influences, reduced social opportunities, and even having an interest in gambling itself, which can all increase the risk of problem gambling for gaming workers. So on the flip side, the protective factors for gaming workers, we know can include knowledge in responsible gambling, awareness of gambling harm, and an environment with reduced harmful behaviours can all act as protective factors against the risk of gambling-related harm for gaming workers. We also know that if venues implemented improved intervention strategies for responsible gambling, as well as inhibiting the development and progression of gambling behaviours through training and education, could significantly reduce gaming workers' risk of gambling-related harm. We also know that exposing gaming workers to the losses and programs associated with gambling, as well as co-worker influences, also function as protective factors for gaming workers, whilst also addressing gambling problems in a supportive and encouragement manner also act as protective factors. For instance, supporting workers to recognise gambling problems and speak out and seek assistance through the employment of responsible gambling strategies within the working environment, either through management or through co-workers. So within our research, we had 3 research objectives. Our first research objective was to increase the understanding of the unique lived experiences of gaming workers within the gaming industry. Our second research objective was to increase the understanding and awareness of the protective factors against gambling-related harm for gaming workers. Whilst our third objective was to build knowledge for gaming workers within the gambling industry to further develop and implement initiatives to manage gaming workers' risk of problem gambling. So our methodology. So we used a social constructivist paradigm, which was to shed light into how gaming workers' experiences have been constructed by their perceptions and social interactions with others, the world, culture, and society. We used an interpretivist framework which provided insight into the way gaming workers construct and interpret their realities, thus shedding light into unravelling the reality of gaming workers' learned experiences and understanding the way in which they are protecting themselves from gambling-related harm. So our participants. So we used a snowball purpose, sample purpose of 7, which consisted of 6 males and 1 female. The study had 6 participants from Australia and 1 participant from Sweden. All participants had 12 months work experience in the gaming industry from either the wagering industry or a casino. All participants were older than 18 years of age, and the ages ranged from 22 to 41 years. So our procedure. So each participant in the study undertook a semi-constructed interview that consisted of 13 open-ended questions. Interviews were approximately half an hour in length and were recorded using an audio recording device for transcribing purposes. Each interview was de-identified and was transcribed by the researcher using a NEVO, which is a qualitative data analyst computer software program. A thematic analyst was used to present the emerging themes within the interview data to help answer the research objectives. And just on the right, I've just given you a bit of an overview of the thematic analysts and the steps involving in it. So our results. So we came up with 5 main themes and then the sub-themes. So our first main theme was socialization and job attraction. The sub-themes within that were similar interests and friendships, social event and gatherings opportunities, job advertisement and a need of a job. Our second main theme was transferring knowledge, job satisfaction and attitude of industry. The sub-themes within that were using knowledge to educate people, using knowledge to stop people from gambling, skill development and problem solving, attitudes and awareness of the industry on customers. A third main theme was adverse effects and perception of gambling, and the sub-themes within that were awareness and experiences of gaming workers being at risk, attitude towards advertised gambling commercials. Our third main theme was approaches to helping a worker with gambling problems. And the sub-themes within that was friendships and conversation, changing workers' perception of winning. And our last main theme was harm minimization strategies and recommendations. And the sub-themes within that were confidential helpline services for workers, monitoring and reporting systems for workers, better positive industry awareness of help services for workers, company responsibility, and no gambling policy. So our significant findings. So what we did find from the data was that there was a high level of social connectedness between gaming workers. Generally, participants felt a positive aspect to working within the industry was because of the friendships they had made. Most participants described that working in such a niche industry, they had discovered that they started to work and coexist with a lot of people that were like-minded to themselves, that had similar passions and interests to them. Participants also described that the most beneficial approach to help a co-worker with a gambling problem was through engaging in conversation with them, trying to change their perception of winning through trying to get them to think critically by questioning their belief in winning and trying to justify with that. Interestingly, most participants were keen to take action of someone that may have a gambling problem once they found out, often describing that they would take it upon themselves to approach the worker. However, this was dependent on how close they were with the person and the area in which they worked in. There was a level of helplessness towards co-workers with gambling problems, in the sense that other than stealing their own wallet, there wasn't a great amount that they felt that they could do. Interestingly, very few participants commented that using the gambling helpline and protocol at work would be beneficial in helping a co-worker with a gambling problem. So there was a general positive attitude in being able to use their knowledge and position within the industry to either educate or stop people from gambling. Generally, participants felt enjoyment towards their job, with most describing great satisfaction with being able to see their abilities and knowledge come off, in which they felt highly passionate about. Some participants were keen to emphasize that the industry is money driven, and if people don't know what they're doing, then they're just throwing away their money. One participant felt that customers pay to feel miserable because workers don't necessarily sell them anything. Participants also perceived that the gaming workers were at risk of developing a gambling problem, describing that having access, knowledge, and experience to gambling increased the temptation for gaming workers to gamble. Such as one participant felt that the temptation to gamble is higher through knowing you're following the right money. So from the data, we came up with 3 protective factors for gaming workers against gambling-related harm. The first protective factor was friendships. The interconnectedness between gaming workers within the organisation was profoundly important for reducing gaming workers' risk of gambling-related harm. The second protective factor was attitude. Gaming workers were able to recognise the signs, triggers, and control gambling behaviours in individuals. They were also aware of the negative effects and risks associated with gambling, hence they were willing to use their knowledge to educate and stop people from gambling. The third protective factor was awareness. So gaming workers were aware and able to distinguish the potential risk factors that can influence their gambling behaviours, and they were also aware and capable of recognising the realistic chances of winning through gambling. So we did come up with 5 harm minimisation strategies and recommendations for gaming workers. The first one was a confidential helpline service. So participants felt that having a separate helpline service just dedicated to co-workers would be really beneficial for workers within the gaming industry. Another recommendation was reporting and monitoring system. So participants felt that having a in-place monitoring and reporting system in place would be very beneficial to helping gaming workers within the gaming industry. Another recommendation was positive promotion awareness on help services. So this was promoting in a positive light the different awareness programs rather than the negative aspect of possibly losing their job. The fourth recommendation was company responsibility. So participants felt that it is the company's responsibility for their employees, in the sense that if they do have a gambling problem, then they should be doing something about that. And the last recommendation just is to have a no gambling policy across the board. So implications. So the findings from this research contribute to help policymakers and management devise better gambling harm related initiatives to help reduce gambling behaviours and risk for workers, which may improve workers' physical and psychological well-being. By recognising the unique lived experiences of gaming workers gives workers a voice, thereby helping to build knowledge for stakeholders and for future research. Ultimately, by understanding gaming workers' lived experiences with gambling could be a potential resource for developing gambling harm minimisation strategies. So in conclusion, overall, the findings of the present study suggest that workplace friendship, workers' attitudes and awareness of gambling and the industry are significant protective factors for gaming workers against gambling-related harm. In addition, the results found that gaming workers would benefit from having confidential helpline services available, monitoring and reporting systems, better positive promotion awareness on the help services available, company responsibility, and a no gambling policy. Any questions?